Calling all yarn witches, fiber goths, and crochet gays. I'm Thorn, and I want to welcome you to my brand new channel, Thornwing Crochet, where I talk about crochet. So, if you want to hang out with me for a while in my gothic grotto, then come on in and let's get spooky, witchy, queer, and crafty.
Watch me weave her light into ribbons of rainbow. Weave into your eyes where her colors shine.
So, you're here, I'm queer, maybe you are too, that's awesome. And what exactly is this channel? I mean, there are lots of crochet channels on YouTube, but this is mine, and I want to make it special. So how am I going to do that? First of all, if you have any ideas about what you would like to see from me, then I would love to hear that down in the comments below. But here are some of my ideas that I've had so far. So I know that one thing I can offer is making tutorials of patterns, whether of my own patterns or other people's patterns. One type of pattern I especially want to offer, and which I know that a lot of people have a hard time with, is those complicated lace patterns, especially when they're in chart form, because I know a lot of people have trouble reading charts, and that is a skill that I have, so I thought I could offer that to you. One thing I'm especially excited about on that note is, you know how on Pinterest there are all these lace charts, and they're always like grainy JPEGs, and sometimes they're in a different language, or at least the instructions are, if there are instructions. I do stutter sometimes. It's a lifelong speech impediment, so please bear with me on that. But anyway, I'm going to try to speak as clearly and flowingly as I can. So I found that at least sometimes I can make sense of those charts and figure out what's going on. Like I make it as I make the image as big as I can without it being too fuzzy, and I kind of go by trial and error and see what works. So I'm not promising that it will be exactly what the author intended, but I'm thinking I can do some tutorials based on those types of lace charts, and I think that would be really cool, because a lot of them are really beautiful. They're just hard to read. Another thing I think it would be fun to do is, whenever I get new yarn or new hooks or other crochet notions, of course I love watching unboxings, so it'd be fun to do that with y'all. Then you can see what kind of yarn I tend to get, which is basically black and sparkly, either separately or combined. Like the Caron Simply Soft Party yarn in black. It's my favorite yarn right now. It's my staple. Right, and besides that, of course, I can talk about my future crochet projects, my present crochet projects, my past crochet projects, the three genders of time. But anyway, and that would include personal projects, and then also ones that I'm doing more on the business side of things, because I do hope to sell patterns. Well, let me take that back. I am selling patterns, and I'll tell you more about my Etsy store a bit later. But I'm also hoping to sell other patterns. Clear? Good. So basically, my Etsy store has mostly color work charts, which can be, they're a bit small for graph cans, but they could be wall tapestries or pillowcases or totes. And I'm hoping to branch into wearables. Actually, I'm currently designing some wearables for my wardrobe, which I hope to offer as patterns at some point soon. So now that you know some of what you can expect from me, let's talk about who I am as a crocheter. As I alluded to in the intro with the words spooky, witchy, queer, and crafty, that's basically me in a nutshell. I'm goth. I also love other alternative fashions like gothic Lolita, and just anything that's spooky and alternative and has that darkly darkly romantic vibe, like a haunted mansion under the moonlight on Halloween. I am pagan and a witch, and a lot of my crochet projects do have a witchy or a spiritual meaning, so I think it would be fun to talk about that a bit, because I don't see people often bringing the two worlds of crochet or crafting in general and paganism or any kind of spirituality together. So since those two are so entwined in my life, it would be a cool thing to talk about, I think. Some of the crochet projects that I'm most proud of, that I think have turned out most stunningly, have actually been made in devotion to my gods. Then, of course, I'm queer. I'm a gay, non-binary trans man. That's it in a nutshell. I do use he, him, his, if just in case you were wondering. And my name is Thorn. Right, I mentioned that in the intro. Okay. There have been so many versions of the intro in my head over the past day or two that I forgot which one I actually used. And then crafty is pretty self-explanatory. Of course, I crochet, but I also do lots of other stuff. Beading, sewing, art, music. Some of those more than others, but in any case, we're going to focus on crochet here. So the type of crochet that I like to do, it varies a lot, but there are specific things that I found that I gravitate towards more. So one of them is color work, and that especially is true in my patterns that I've made for my Etsy. My Etsy store, Thirst Pixels, is for color work charts in both cross stitch and soon crochet. I'm working on that, and I'm trying to think how to describe my patterns simply. They're basically pixel art pinups. You probably didn't know that was a thing. I didn't either, but through a series of events I started drawing them, and they're just these cute, gothy, fantasy-themed, pagan-themed, queer pride-themed drawings of people that often have very pretty clothes, but a minimal amount. And in some and the clothes might be configured in such a way that I have to censor certain areas when I show them here, but that's fine. So I have some witches, some mermaids. I have a lot of art based on the various pride flags. So I use those colors in the image, and then I use the flag as the border. I have several that are inspired by the gods that I follow in my pagan path. I have several inspired by the characters in the stories that I'm writing. I even have a couple of self-portraits, both before and after testosterone and or top surgery. So my hope with Thirst Pixels is that I can just bring a lot of joy to people in exploring queerness and body positivity and feeling positive about whoever they're attracted to or themselves, and just enjoying beautiful people in beautiful clothes. I guess that's my mission statement. If you're interested, my link for that will be down in the description below, as well as my Instagram, which is also Thornwing Crochet, on which I post more about my Thirst Pixels patterns, as well as other crochet patterns too. So besides color work, I also really love lace. as I alluded to before. But I think it's worth mentioning again. I love sparkly yarn. I love fancy stitches and fancy finished objects. On that note, I really enjoy incorporating beads and ribbons and stuff like that into my crochet projects. And I find that works especially well with some of the thinner threads, yarns. Well, I've done it with thread. That took a long time. But the finished result is amazing. But wow, that crochet thread can be hard to work with. Some of the patterns that I offer might be for more fancy, lacy types of garments, and I would want to have tutorials on my channel to help people with that, because I know that can be daunting. Fun fact, the first time I ever got really excited about a crochet pattern, it was a lace edging that I had found, and I just thought it was so beautiful. But then I looked at the pattern and it was this chart, and I was a beginner crocheter at the time, and I had no idea how to read a chart, much less a lace chart. So that kind of fueled me, and I think it's cool that now I can follow lace charts. So hopefully I can bring that to anyone else who wants to do that too. Oh right, one other thing I'm passionate about with crochet wearables and accessories, I guess those are wearables, but clothes and accessories is making things that work in a guy's wardrobe. And I know that clothes don't have a gender, but as a trans guy, like, it does matter. It can feel really affirming to have clothes that you feel fit your gender, even if they're not what most people would expect your gender to wear. So as a goth guy, I've struggled to find my exact style, but I do know that it's a lot more feminine, like on the kind of flowy romantigoth side, like a poet or a vampire pirate type of thing, than the more masculine butch side of things. But it's hard for me to translate that into physical garments as I'm trying to build my wardrobe, and it's amazing how difficult it can be to have to start over with your wardrobe building halfway through because you realize that you're trans. So I had a bunch of really pretty dresses I had made, and I like them. I just like I would want to be a guy who wears dresses, but my dysphoria says nope. So at this point anyway, I guess they're just going to be decoration. Plus I can't fit into them at this point, so that's the other reason. Anyway, but I am still proud of them. So 2 of the wearable patterns that I'm designing right now were actually inspired by the fact that I really want some like poet pirate type shirts in my wardrobe, the type that has these the type that has the V-neck and then it laces up, and really flowy sleeves that gather at the wrist. I love that type of shirt, but it's hard to find unless you, I guess, sew it, and I don't really want to sew. I did mention that I sew earlier, but I don't do it often. It's not something I feel very confident about. So a little bird whispered to me that no one has made a crochet pattern for those types of shirts yet, at least that I know of. So I was like, well, that sounds like a fun challenge and perhaps a crochet niche. So I am designing a poet shirt crochet pattern currently, and I learned cables for it, so that should be fun. More on that in a future video, probably. And I'm also designing a vest to go over it, kind of like a... I don't know what the name for this garment would be, but it's one of those vests that would look good over a poet shirt. And it was actually going to be a shirt at first, but I realized wool ease is not going to feel good against my skin. It looks fantastic, but it is an over something else garment. That's the other thing. I've had sensory issues my whole life. Turns out I'm autistic, so that's probably why. So that dictates a lot of what I can wear. For example, I would love to wear fishnets or stripy tights, but my legs would revolt against me. Trust me, I've tried. So I'd like to design sensory friendly patterns, and also patterns that can be worn in a hotter climate. I live in Southern California, where it's hot most of the time, and also I'm sensitive to heat, which is a great combination. So I think that's all I have for right now. Thanks for chilling here with me. If you want to chill with me more, I have a more casual conversational podcast over on my Midnight Ballroom podcast channel. Then I have my Queer Pagan Music over on my Thorn Silver Holly Song channel. And all the other stuff I'm doing you can find in my Linktree. So thanks for hanging out, and hope to see you again in my Gothic grotto.
Baby, won't you love by the name Caron? Dance the world's delight, thrice beloved song.